I'm so glad that I know more than I knew then. Gonna keep on trying till I reach the highest ground.
Our opening words this morning are called The Heart of Our Faith and are by Monica Jacobson Tennyson. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together. And so finally, I just want to welcome you with, live from Fellowship Hall, it's our LCUUF Sunday service. And now a special welcome to our visitors. If you're visiting with us for the first time or have returned or reconnected with us after a long absence, we invite you to say your name and tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, use the Zoom raise hand feature, or just turn your video on and wave your hand, and we'll ask you to unmute. If you're in the room, just raise your hand. We'll start with the people in the room.
Who would like to speak?
My name is Judy, and I'm from Oakville, Ontario.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Aha, somebody's getting pointed at.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I'm from Berkeley, California.
Welcome. Okay.
Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm from Mahihi.
I'm Doug from King City, Ontario, Canada.
Excellent.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Weaver, and I'm from Mahihi too.
Good to see you. Anybody more here in the room? Okay.
Okay, now let's switch to those on Zoom. Is there anyone new with us on Zoom?
Don't see anybody raising their hand.
Okay. And just a brief note, we offer a wide variety of services on various topics presented by our members, outside guests, as well as our minister, Reverend Matt Alspaugh. We hope you will return to sample this variety of thought and belief. Our chalice lighting words today are by Scott Taylor. May the light we now kindle and the time we now share anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred center, which helps us remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. May our time together be clear the way for those memories and voices and friends that lead us back home. Now let us light our chalice with these words that we sing together.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Each week, we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. The sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones is one way that we practice holding on to one another in community. We speak what is in our hearts, sharing any significant joys or sorrows in our lives because there is power in the sharing. We will start with the folks in the room to give those on Zoom a chance to type joys or sorrows into the chat to be read out loud by the Zoom host. First, let us recall the joys. Whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others. Are there any joys that people would like to share here in the room?
I'm Sharon, and my husband, Steve, who's not next to me, but back in the corner there, wave, Steve, today shares, we'll say this after the wonderful music, shares Elvis's birthday today. They are, and Steve is 81 today, and that's all I have to say.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I'll come back to behind you.
I'm Johannes Bjorner, and a few days ago, Susanna and I were sitting at the plaza. We just finished a cup of coffee, and Susanna says, I'm a little bit cold. Let's go and sit in the sun. So we moved around the plaza, and there was a mariachi orchestra playing. And in front of the mariachi orchestra, there was a bench with two young people, a young man and a young woman. And she looked very embarrassed. I think he had arranged the whole thing. So after the music stopped, he got down on his knees, pulled out an engagement ring, and gave it to her. And the end is that she accepted.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Doug again. Yesterday, in November, I had a friend. He was a fellow Marine, and we had planned his funeral arrangements. He said, when I pass away, make sure at my service they play Scotland the Brave and find a Scotsman to do it. So anyway, yesterday we had the most remarkable service in the square in Ahihi. We had a bugler, we had a piper. He piped in that song that my friend Gravy wanted. And then we heard Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, and we heard Danny Boy, a song that Elvis Presley said words were written by angels. It was absolutely remarkable. So a wonderful day yesterday to say farewell to Gravy wherever he may be. And it was quite a remarkable day for those who attended and witnessed that. So I thought I'd share that.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis, and I'm excited because yesterday I got hired by one restaurateur, and last week I got hired by another restaurateur to teach not only chefs English, but to how to make desserts for Valentine's Day.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Susie Lindeman. I live in Chapala in Plaza Toros. I came with Mary Helen. I haven't been here in a long time. Really, it's my second time to a service. It's cool to see how this is done in the back. The plants growing over the edge. I haven't been here in about 2 years, except, well, 3 times, 2 for service. Anyhow, my joy. I'm assistant to the district governor for the Rotary clubs of District 4140. There's 130 some clubs. And Thursday, I took our governor from our club in Chapala at 9:30 for breakfast meeting and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then to the Ahihi Club for lunch, a late lunch, and then to a dinner meeting with the Hoko Club, the Hokotepec Club, that ended about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. He had a great time. His daughter said, this was the best day of my life. The little 7-year-old daughter, we went on the malicones all over in between times. But I think the best thing was that we gave a presentation on the 17 projects that we're doing this Rotary year. And at the end, he gave his presentation, but he said that our club was one of the best, if not the best club that he's ever visited anywhere in the world. And that meant a lot. And that's Chapala Sunrise Rotary Club.
Okay, we are joyful. Are there any joys to be shared on Zoom?
Yes, I have a couple to share. One is from Bob Coaches, who says it's a great joy that Kathy celebrated her 75th birthday. Happy birthday, Kathy. We also have a joy from Pamela Cuccinell, who says our Cuban family left after a visit 3 years overdue. Our daughter and nephew became fast friends and improved their language skills, Spanglish, hand gestures, and smiles. That's it.
And now let us voice our sorrows. Whatever you may be holding that's in need of healing and caring thoughts. Are there any sorrows or concerns that people would like to share here in the room? Wow, really joyful. Okay, are there any sorrows to share on Zoom?
Not that I see.
And this candle from our care team represents those joys and sorrows that are not yet ripe for words, that now remain, that now remain in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We light this candle for all those unspoken joys and sorrows. Let us share a moment of silence to hold in our hearts both the sorrows and the joys that have been shared this morning. Our opening hymn is Find a Stillness. Please rise as you are willing and able to join me in singing.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
So I want to invite you into a time of meditation, a brief meditation this morning, a bit of a guided meditation. And so first, I would like to invite you to get into a comfortable position. You that are at home can find a comfortable position, seated, laying down, standing, whatever you like. Here, maybe you might not necessarily want to lay down on the ground, but you can. But get yourself grounded, find yourself sitting well, and take a cleansing breath, just a deep breath, and let it out slowly. And notice how your body relaxes with that kind of out breath. And now just tune into the natural pattern of your breathing. You don't need to change it, just notice it. And notice your mind perhaps becoming a little bit calmer and quieter with the noticing of the breathing. And now I want to invite you to begin imagining yourself a few years into the future. Not so distant that you will have changed immensely, but just imagine looking at your future self right in front of you, smiling at you. Yes, maybe you have a few more wrinkles or whatever, but you look wiser, more joyful. This future self smiling at you and drawing you in to this future self with a warm, safe energy, a time to have perhaps a safe conversation. And imagine this future self speaking to you, offering you wisdom. What might this future self say? Perhaps your future self is reminding you to simply let the small stuff go. Or maybe that even in whatever hard moments you're experiencing right now, it'll all be okay. Because after all, this future self is there. Or maybe if you're working through a challenging issue right now, you might imagine what your future self might tell you about it. Just imagine the care pouring forth in this conversation, the love in both directions, really. And so let's just breathe here, imagine here, take a few more moments with our future selves. And when you're ready, let your future self go. and breathe. And hang on to the messages from your future self. And return to your body. And return to your breath. And come into the present moment. And let us all be here together, sitting in silence, reflecting on the messages, the learnings, the wisdom. And end here together, just breathing as always. Here together again.
This reading is called New Year's Resolutions for an Anteater, and it's by Emma Rathbone, published in 2013, slightly updated. That's right, you guessed it. I'm going to eat a shit ton more ants. I'm going to eat them off a tree. I'm going to eat them off a coconut. I'm going to eat them off one of those classy slanted desks from an antique shop. I'm going to eat them off a globe, off a paperweight, off a ship in a bottle. I'm going to eat so many ants. You would think that's what I've been put on earth to do. Just hoover up ants like the weirdest thing in the world. It's like God was like, well, I think I overdid it with the ants. And then had the idea to send some insane, bulky creature down to take care of them. And that's me. And the thing is, I love it. If you were put on earth to eat ants, you'd love it too. You'd look at a menu and go, this is all fine and good, but I don't see any ants on here. If you were playing chess, you'd be like, this is all fine and good, but I don't see any ants on this chessboard. If you were in charge of designing personal checks with all kinds of faint backgrounds, you might have a reflective moment thinking, this is a great cloudscape I've created, but I wouldn't want to live there because there probably wouldn't be any ants. You'd be on the phone with your mom and you'd be like, yeah, sure. I'm fine. What about ants? You'd look at yourself in the mirror and think, I've got a one-track mind and I don't care. I love ants and that's me. And yes, I'm a work in progress, but I gotta be true to myself. Okay, here's my one rule. If I see an ant, I have to eat it. If you see something, eat that thing is my motto when that thing is an ant. If I see an ant on a basketball, I'm gonna eat it. If you see an ant on the arm of an Adirondack chair, I'm gonna eat it. If I see an ant in Meryl Streep's hair, I'm gonna seek it out and eat it. If we're on a tour in a historic house and you see an ant walking up some mottled glass window, don't even worry about it because I already ate it. I am in a general low-key ambient way concerned about the whereabouts of all ants at all times. That's just my way. And something tells me that 2023 is going to be when I really come into my own. Have a great new year, unless you're an ant. This reading is Listening for Our Song, and it's by David S. Blanchard. On sabbatical in East Africa, I heard a story of a people who believe that we are each created with our own song. Their tradition as a community is to honor that song by singing it as a welcome when a child is born, as comfort when the child is ill, in celebration when the child marries, and in affirmation and love when death comes. Most of us were not welcome to the world in that way. Few of us seem to know our song. It takes a while for many of us to figure out which is our song and which is the song that others would like us to sing. Some of us are slow learners. I learned my song not necessarily from doing extraordinary things in exotic places, but also from doing some pretty ordinary things in some routine places. For every phrase I heard, climbing Kilimanjaro, I learned another in a chair in a therapist's office. For every measure I heard in the silence of a retreat, I heard another one laughing with my girls. For every note I heard in the wind on the beach at Lamu, I gleaned more from spending time with a dying friend as her children sang her song back to her. What came to astound me was not that the song appeared, but that it was always there. I figured that the only way I could have known it for my own was if I had heard it before memory went to work making sense and order of the mystery of our being. Our songs sing back to us something of our essence, something of our truth, something of our uniqueness. When our songs are sung back to us, it's not about approval, but about recognizing our being and our belonging in the human family. It is good to know our songs by heart for those lonely times when the world is not singing them back to us. That's usually a good time to start humming to yourself that song that is most your own. They can be heard as songs of love or longing, songs of encouragement or of comfort, songs of struggle or of security. But most of all, they are the songs of life, giving testimony to what has been, giving praise for all we're given, giving hope for all we strive for, giving voice to the great mystery that carries each of us in and out of this world.
How does one find their center? How does one find their purpose in life, their passion, their reason for being? What is your song? Do you know it? Can you sing it? Or as the leader of a spiritual direction group that I am in would ask, what is God calling you to do in your life? Now, see, I belong to a small circle of ministers here in Ahihik that meets monthly for spiritual direction. That is deep conversation about our spiritual lives. It's an enjoyable group for me. It offers me connection with other ministers here, other working ministers in this area, as well as an opportunity to reflect on our work and our purposes. But I'm a bit of an outlier as a Unitarian Universalist among a group of Christians. Now, that's not to say there are not Christian UUs. That's far from that. But it's just that my own theological understanding is different these days. And so I have a lot of translating I do of their language in my mind. Now, for some people, a group like this would be very threatening. They might be afraid that they might be pulled away from their own spirituality, that they might find themselves questioning their own faith, that they might even be in danger of losing their faith. I mean, that's super scary stuff for many. But I know that many of you are like me. You have already been down the path of questioning, of doubt and loss, and the need to find something else. For many of us, it's not been an easy path, and it in fact involves a lot of work, hard work. There is internal work as we have to unravel parts of the fabric of our understanding of the world, of our faith, and reconstruct all that in a different way. Now that takes time and effort and likely a good deal of tears. And then there is external pain too, as in this process we may lose friendships, companionship in our spiritual community, maybe even our family, all those who may be threatened by the changes that we are making and fearful to have us around. Now, there's a name for this period of doubt and change. It's the dark night of the soul. I don't think that's quite the right image right now. We're going to get to that one. So there's a name for this, the dark night of the soul. And The question is, what is this about? Now, to talk about the dark night of soul, I want to switch gears a bit and enlist the help of an AI, an artificial intelligence software program. Yes, now some of you may have heard about this chat box, ChatGPT, which is the creation of a company, OpenAI, this ChatGPT was released into the wild for public use this last December. And there's been a lot of press about it, about worries that it could threaten some writing jobs, even programming jobs, that it is a new kind of plagiarism, that school students would use it to cheat by having it write their school papers. And of course, with that kind of controversy, I had to give it a try. So I created an account, a free account, and logged in. And I asked ChatGPT, tell me about the dark night of the soul in a preacherly voice. I mean, I had to do that part, right? And the following is what ChatGPT spit out. It wrote, the dark night of a soul is a term used to describe a period of spiritual crisis, a time of trial, suffering, and spiritual dryness that can occur in the lives of those who are deeply spiritual. It is a time when a person feels separated from God and experiences a sense of emptiness, loneliness, and despair. The dark night can be a difficult and trying time, as it often involves a loss of faith and a sense of abandonment by God. It can be a time of great confusion and doubt, as a person struggles to understand their place in the world and their relationship with God. But despite the difficulties and challenges of the dark night of the soul, it can be a time of great growth and transformation. In the midst of the darkness, a person may learn to rely more fully on their faith and trust in God, and may emerge from this period of trial with a greater understanding of their own spiritual journey and a stronger connection with the divine. So do not despair, my friends. If you find yourself in the midst of a dark night of the soul, remember that this too shall pass, and that God is with you always, even in the darkest of times. Lean on your faith and trust in the Lord, and have hope that better days are ahead. Amen. So, Matt here. I thought that message might work for some of you, but I thought maybe not for others. So I tried again. So this time I asked, tell me about the dark night of the soul in a preacherly style, but for humanists and atheists. So it said, the dark night of the soul is a term that has been used to describe a period of intense spiritual crisis or questioning. It's often associated with feelings of despair, loneliness, and isolation. However, the concept of the dark night of the soul does not have to be tied to any specific religious beliefs. It can also be experienced by humanists and atheists as a time of intense self-examination and introspection. During this time, one may feel as if they have lost their way, and they may question their values, beliefs, and purpose in life. It may be a challenging and painful experience, but it can also be an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Ultimately, this dark night of the soul is a reminder that we are human and that it is normal to go through difficult times. It is a reminder that we all have strength and resilience to overcome adversity and emerge stronger on the other side. Matt again. I actually think this stuff is pretty good. I was surprised how well it was writing sermonic material. And I even think it captures more or less some of my own experiences, and certainly the experiences of a number of people I've talked with over the years. Maybe it resonates with you, one or the other of those, maybe even both. Now, not everyone passes through such deep, despairing experiences. Many of us find our own wandering paths towards our centers, paths that may not require such a deep level of doubt and suffering. Our paths in search of our centers, our call, our song, may have minor bumps and deviations along the way, but we still keep at it. We still make the journey toward ourselves, toward our centers. But then not everyone seems interested in finding their center. A week ago, the writer and conservative columnist David Brooks wrote an opinion piece called "The Sad Tale of George Santos." I'm sure you've heard of Santos, the newly elected Republican congressman from Long Island, New York, who fabricated much about his life. The degrees that he had not earned, the jobs he never had, property he never owned, even a Jewish heritage that he did not have. Brooks says, I can't feel much anger towards Santos for his deceptiveness, just a bit of sorrow. Cutting yourself off to that degree from the bedrock of the truth renders your whole life unstable. Santos made his own path unreliable, his own past unreliable, perpetually up for grabs. But when you do that, you also eliminate any coherent vision of your future. Back to me. In my mind, here is a man cut off from his center. Rather than living the authentic life, the truthful one, as a person trying to find his center, just as we are all trying to find our centers, instead, as Brooks says, he fabricated a new persona, that of a meritocratic Superman. Brooks goes on. In a sense, Santos is a sad, farcical version of where Donald Trump has taken the Republican Party into a land of unreality, the continent of lies. Trump's takeover of the GOP was not primarily an ideological takeover. It was a psychological and moral one. Brooks notes that with Trump, there was no real person, no inner life or autobiographical narrative to betray. Matt, would say that he embodies a person with no center. The hollow man, the stuffed man, headpiece filled with straw, to borrow from T.S. Eliot. Now, that's not to say that a hollow man cannot sound erudite or be persuasive or achieve great success. I think again of ChatGPT, that AI we heard from earlier. Now, while it was able to write pretty effectively about a topic of human experience, the dark night of the soul, I am pretty sure it has never actually experienced such a thing itself. Rather, like most AIs, it has been trained on a vast collection of text, mostly scraped from the internet. Ask it a question, and it connects bits of all that internet material together to form explanations, stories, even poetry. But like a good but bookish student, it can write credible text about things it has never experienced. Apparently, at times, it can write logical and convincing text that is complete bullshit. To use a term of philosophy coined by philosopher Harry G. Frankfurt. Yes, he wrote a book. Now, and he says, whereas liars try to deceive or hide the truth, the bullshitter doesn't give a damn about the truth. Some bullshitters don't even know the truth, and that lack of knowledge doesn't stop them. Now, with Santos and Trump, I leave it to you to consider which is the liar and which is the bullshitter. But here's another way to look at the question. What is really real? Recently, a controversy developed in the art world. Was this painting, Girl with a Flute, painted by the 17th century great Dutch painter Johannes Vermeer, or was it done by someone else, perhaps an associate or a student? Now, part of my mind wants to say, does it really matter? I mean, we've all seen or heard of reproductions, art reproductions, perhaps forgeries, perhaps honest copies that are so well executed that they are virtually indistinguishable from the original. And yet the original is what we desire. It is what is valued. It is what's more important over the duplicate. The original is what is really real. And I think in doing the work, following the path, seeking to find our center, we do work that is true, that is real. We become more authentic as people. It is the work that matters as much as the result. We don't trust an AI like ChatGPT to tell us about something like the dark night of the soul, or for that matter, finding its center, because ChatGPT has no center. There is no lived experience, no true wisdom, no soul. And the same is true of AIs that generate art, another area of controversy. This is what an AI generated when it was asked to create, I quote, a sea otter in the style of Girl with a Pearl Earring by Vermeer. So how do you find your center? It's tempting that you can simply access outside resources, wisdom teachers, writings, YouTubes, whatever, to tell you where your center is. Now, those things might be useful, but they can help, but ultimately you must do the work. Finding your center is about your own experience. Author and educator Parker Palmer says, there are moments when it is clear, if I have eyes to see, that the life I am living is not the same as the life that wants to live in me. Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. In other words, listen to your life, your own experiences, and to that still small voice that's within you that will act as a compass guiding you if you take time to hear it. Listen for your song. Experiment with your life. I think of Gandhi, who called his autobiography the story of my experiments with truth. Like Gandhi, you might experiment with many of the spiritual tools for direction finding. And these are not new to you, I'm sure. Things like meditation, taking time to be alone, prayer, being in nature, journaling, writing for yourself. Maybe doing art or creative activities, not so much to sell or give to others, but just for your own experience. Travel, seeking to experience and understand. Compassionate service, helping others directly, eye to eye. Reading the mystics and the wisdom teachings, always with a questioning mind, asking, how do I react to these teachings? There's an old technique that we were taught in seminary called action reflection. And the way it works is you take an action in your life. Maybe do something that you're not quite ready to do. And then you reflect on the outcome. You don't try to be judgmental or critical of your experience because you were trying to act without overthinking, without overplanning. But the reflection is about the experience, about what that experience tells you about your center, about your life's direction. And then you act again, maybe using one of those spiritual tools I mentioned or doing something else. And you reflect on what that action teaches you about yourself. And you do it again and keep doing it as you iterate towards your life's center. And just maybe, gradually, in times of quiet, the still small voice in your heart will offer up a strand, a verse, and you'll beginning to hear the song of your life. And in just singing it to yourself, you will know your place in this great mystery of this universe. And then again, if you're an anteater, just ignore this stuff. You've already got it figured out. You're centered already. Just eat ants.
There are many ways. Can you hear me? There are many ways to be of service to LCUUF. Our time, treasures, and talents are all necessary components to a healthy fellowship. Now's the time in our service when we ask you to share the gift of treasure through pledging and donations. Instructions for payments to the fellowship are on a slide during the announcements before the service every week. For the people here at the fellowship, we'll pass a basket. If you're new here today or are struggling to hold things together, let the basket pass you by. Your presence is more than enough and is a gift to us. And while you're considering your gifts to the fellowship, remember that each month LCUUF donates 5,000 pesos or more to an organization in our Lakeside community. We share 1/2 of the offering collected at the fellowship each week with that organization. For the month of January, we're supporting Tepewa Central Comunitario. This organization serves people in the Tepewa barrio of Chapala, one of the poorest barrios in the state of Jalisco. In addition to food assistance, the Comunitario provides medical and dental care, teaches reading and English as a second language, and helps women start small businesses by training them in sewing skills. Our closing hymn is Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please rise as you're willing and able and join me in singing.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Let each of us say yes to life, to truth, to love. May we help each other as we continue on the journeys towards our centers. And as we rediscover the words and the melodies, that we may sing our own songs. Blessed be.
Let us extinguish our chalices with these words, which we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world. Our worship is over. Our service to life begins. Go in peace and with a purpose.